Yes, hello everyone and welcome to all our West Australian football fans to another edition of Around the Waffle. We're hot off the heels of round 15 in the WAFL. We're there with thrillers and upsets this past Saturday in Waffle football, and we're going to recap all those games for you here today on your go-to WAFL podcast in season 2024. You can catch us on YouTube and where you get your podcasts, and also on our socials, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Paul Besic with you in the studio alongside the one and only Ethan Roth. And Rothy, another big weekend in Waffle footy with some big results as far as the Final Five is concerned.
Yeah, great to be back, Paul. And maybe an upset or two from our tips from last week. But still nonetheless, 3 games to review, and obviously a further 3 games the weekend ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, we'll we'll preview all those games on Thursday. Before we go any further, we do like to send our condolences to the South Fremantle Football Club. Of course, we saw on the news the tragic passing of young Colts star Nick Campo in a car accident over in North Lake. A great player with a lot of potential. Rothy, you cover the Colts and the under-18s a lot on the Bray and Ethan show. A very good player with so much potential.
Yeah, just devastating for all involved. Obviously, our thoughts go out to the family and all his friends. I only spoke to a couple of his friends, in the recent months on the show, and he was, mentioned several times about how much of a great mate he was, how much potential he had. So just, thoughts go out to the South Fremantle Football Club, Aquinas as well.
Absolutely.
His school, even Kalgoorlie and that where he spent some of his younger years.
Absolutely. Well said, Rothy. Our thoughts go out to South Fremantle, all his family and friends at this time. This is Around the Waffle, your go-to WAFL podcast in 2024. Here's how you can win big at the Waffle for the rest of the season.
Punt from 50, win. Little too into the game, win. Too cocky, almost a win. Risking it all for the glory, win. It's win-win at the Waffle. Great footy, food and entertainment. Find out more at waffle.com.au.
Yes, win-win at the WAFL. I'll tell you what was a big win-win. The game between Swan Districts and Claremont. It was pretty much a tight tussle all day, especially in that second half. But one player, despite being on the losing team, really played a starring role down back for the Tigers. He's Anthony Davis from the Claremont Football Club, and he's good enough to join us here on Around the Waffle. Good morning, Anthony. Great to have you here on the show.
Yeah, morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
Great game, it certainly was. Despite being on the wrong end of the result, your side lost no admirers on the day. Your guys played some tremendous football and took it right to the Swans all afternoon.
Yeah, definitely. We knew it was going to be a hot game, especially with Noddy's 305th and Turner's 150th. So we knew the crowd was going to be into us from the start. And, we got the start we wanted, but just couldn't maintain it in the third quarter. And, sort of let their 19th man get a hold of us a bit late in that game.
And although the loss, you must be pleased with the comeback and I guess the way you closed out the game, being 27 points, down and then the 7-point loss. I guess the way you guys closed the game, you didn't give up until the final siren.
We're actually 27 points up,
Sorry,
so it's quite the opposite.
Yeah, but still, the way you fought it out right to the end, it was right there to be won, and you must be happy with, I guess, the fight that your whole team showed.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we threw the magnets around a bit towards the end, and we were pretty close, especially when Watto got that last goal. Sort of with a couple of minutes left, we thought, we might be able to pinch it, but unfortunately, it wasn't the case.
What about Ollie Eastland in the ruck? He again showed some great form with 49 hitouts. He's in Sandover medal winning form, dare I say.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He's a bit of a catalyst for us in the middle, the way he goes about it and has over the last sort of 2 years. He's, probably by far the number one ruckman in the comp, and, he's awesome to play with because you know exactly what you're going to get from him each week.
And what are the players' plans for the bye? We've seen the bye come and go quite a few times this year, so how do you guys approach that?
For us, it's sort of just time to sort of let go of footy for a bit because we've had a 5 or 6 week block now of games. So it's good, a chance to get a break and recoup and freshen the legs up. So I think a few boys have gone away and just really relaxing.
Just going back to Saturday's game against the Swans, the maturity, especially from your experienced players, really is a good reflection on how the side has improved in the second half of the season after what was a poor start with three straight losses. The maturity has really been showing in a lot of these close games, not just against the Swans, but also that grind win against East Perth and against East Fremantle as well. So is that a reflection on the improvement of the side in the last, let's say, 8 to 10 weeks?
Oh, definitely. And, especially if you're the older senior guys, finding a bit more form certainly helps. And then a few younger guys settling a bit more into their roles and, sort of not based around a few individuals. It's sort of the team effort improving dramatically.
Big game coming up in 2 weeks after the bye against East Perth. Now, of course, you beat them by 9 points at Sullivan Logistics Stadium the last time you two guys met. A second win in a row against East Perth. That would certainly raise the confidence even more, especially now with wins becoming ever so crucial and the final 5 only separated by 2 games.
Yeah, East Perth have sort of been, up there the last couple of years. And last year they got the better of us a couple times, and I remember last year our game at Claremont was, I think we were down by 30 points, and that was sort of a really good comeback by us. And if we shut down their kick mark game, then that can go a long way to winning.
Well, Anthony, great game on Saturday despite the results. All the best in 2 weeks' time against East Perth. Really appreciate your time here on Around the Waffle. All the best.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
That was Anthony Davis from the Claremont Football Club. Critical role he played, 22 disposals and 6 marks. It was just a pity, when you're looking at that margin, 27 points up, it was something like the 21-minute mark of the second quarter. Many expected that they were going to go on with it, but, the starts in their second half are a little bit of a concern. Only 3 goals to 2 and only 1 further goal for the game, while the Swans kicked a further 4. So I reckon if they are to make the 5, not only Davis holds the key, but you got the likes of Bolton and Rogers, but you need to get your second halves in order.
Yeah, hopefully the bye can freshen them up a little bit as well. And, he's almost a barometer for them, Anthony Davis. Maybe they needs a bit more support from a key position point of view down back because, he played really well on the weekend but couldn't get them across the line. So,
Absolutely.
I think he did more than what he, was supposed to do from his individual point of view.
Absolutely. Claremont, they won't lose sleep over that loss, but know that wins are going to become crucial. Thanks to Anthony Davis for jumping on today's edition of Around the Waffle, your go-to WAFL podcast in 2024. And some great merch is available right here for you to check out. Introducing the WAFL Merch Shop, your ultimate destination for all things WAFL. From jerseys to scarves to caps, show your support for the WAFL in style. Grab exclusive merchandise now and gear up to cheer louder than ever before. Visit shop.wafl.com.au today and let your passion shine. shop.wafl.com.au. I actually saw a couple of folks with their waffle shirts and their waffle beanies down at Lane Group Stadium in Mandurah on Saturday. They're certainly representing the WAFL. It's wonderful to see.
Love to see that, especially, far and wide as well.
Absolutely, all around Western Australia and even some around the world. I think a couple of our listeners from the United States, believe it or not, are getting some waffle beanies as well. Perfect time, especially.
Yeah, making the impact, that's for sure.
No doubt about it. Let's go to the games. We had 3 games in round 15, starting off with this huge result at Mineral Resources Park. By golly, the Eagles love the morning games. It got them another win by 8 points over West Perth, 17-12, 114 to 16-10, 106. It's the Eagles' 4th win of the season. And it was a real freak sort of a game when you think about it, because you don't often see 30 goals being kicked between the two sides in the modern day WAFL. But the Eagles and the Falcons, by golly, they put on a show.
Yeah, it was a high-scoring game and a close game, which is what you want as well. And, I got to eat my words a little bit because I saw no way that West Coast were winning this.
Yeah, I would as well.
You look at the side. Darling comes back. Chester comes back. I know they lost St. True, but...
and Andrew Gaff as well, of course, who recently, his wife gave birth to his son recently. So congratulations to the Gaff family. So, those couple of omissions there were pretty big. But, the big difference was not only Jack Darling, who kicked 2 goals, including the sealer, but Dom Sheed as well. He's showing he's lost none of his magic.
Yeah, he's obviously come back to waffle level and done wonders there. Took 10 marks as well, which is impressive for a midfielder. 6 inside 50s as well. And I was impressed with Archer Reid as well. 3 goals, 4, bit inaccurate, but as a first-year player on the list, key forward. You love to see that for his development as well. And, you know, the midfielders, Judd Carley, Clay Hall, they were busy as always as well.
They certainly were. They really made a difference in that Eagles win. Clay Hall, 18 touches. Not as much as he would have wanted, but he was very effective. You know, his effective disposal is always such a key. So too can be said for Harley Sparks. 24 touches and 9 marks as well. James Spatanuda, the former East Fremantle Colts player, had a bit of a quiet day as well. Only the 6 touches, but, you know, you can have one of those off days, and he'll get better and better as the rest of the season goes on. Jordan Baker, he was a bit of an unsung one for me. He got plenty of the football, good inside, good in and under midfielder rather, and he too, like Sparks and also like Archer Reed, very, very effective when moving the ball towards attack.
Yeah, he's quite silky and smooth as that player off half back. Obviously, second year on the AFL list, so who knows if he can maybe push his case for senior selection in the coming weeks. But I found it quite bizarre how, you know, Darling, a former Falcon, of course.
Yeah.
You know, premiership player of the Eagles, All-Australian, you know, second leading goal kicker in their history. And he's getting a Gatorade shower after the game in the WAFL team.
It's like
just
he was
shows you.
playing his first.
It just shows you, I mean, the contrast and, almost back to the future for him.
Man, it's like if he played his first AFL game.
Yeah.
You know, he got the Gatorade shower after the match. That was a hell of a sight, you know, to see his teammates, his young teammates in particular, getting around him. That was a magnificent sight. 2 goals he kicked from 7 marks and 17 disposals. As for West Perth, they didn't play a bad game. They weren't disgraced, but this isn't a good result. I mean, they hadn't lost to the Eagles in something like 5 years since the elimination final in 2019. But, you know, I'm going to be blunt. You know, you can't get any lower than that. I mean, when you look at the likes of Perth, Claremont and East Fremantle, who've also lost to the Eagles, for them, I think it's one of the lowest results that they've ever had in recent times. You know, when you look at the lineup that they have on paper, okay, it's a pretty good list, but a lot of the players are getting to their last year or two. Having said that, when you're looking at this game alone, they performed reasonably well. You know, you got Luke Meadows, who had 24. Shane Nelson, we're going to speak to him on Thursday here on Around the Waffle. He had 33 disposals. And Brock Carter, great performance he had, in the ruck. Not as effective in his follow-up work, but 30 hit-outs is still, you know, a number not to be laughed at.
Yeah, I think particularly the reason why it is so disappointing is the time of year, right? Like,
Yeah.
it probably rules them out sort of officially. I don't know about mathematically.
No,
but
they're done.
They're done.
They're done.
I think that's why. It's like the other teams, as you mentioned, yes, they lost to the Eagles, and that's disappointing, but I guess it's the time of year, and I guess their finishing did lack as well.
Yeah, they started off reasonably well in each of the quarters, but, you know, they just couldn't sustain it. You know, and again, it goes to show, why are they taking their foot off the gas? Is it an issue of complacency? Do they think they have it in the bag, only to, you know, realise that, you know, they've still got a long way to go, and this Eagles side just kept coming at them, and West Perth couldn't find a counter, especially late in the last quarter. Even if you had the likes of Nelson, West and Meadows seeing a lot of the football, and up forward Tyler Keitel, who did get some backup to an extent up forward from Jack D'Amato, who kicked 4 goals straight from 10 kicks, it still wasn't enough.
And it's interesting, Saltich, like, what do you do from here on in? Do you sort of obviously prepare for 2025 by giving some young guys more of a go and seeing what they're made of?
I would think so.
To prepare yourself for a big turnaround in next year.
I would think so. You've got to blood the young kids in, because a couple of these players, I reckon, are playing their last season at West Perth. I don't know exactly who. The only certainty I would guess would be Aaron Black. You know, he's the most experienced player out there. I don't know whether he is going to call it quits after 2024. We'll have to wait and see. But him being one of the most experienced, I reckon he's getting towards the end. Maybe uncertainty about Luke Meadows as well. Tyler Keitel, I reckon he's still got a couple of good years left in him.
Yeah, obviously we don't want to speculate, and players will make these decisions on their own. But
That's right.
I think Keegan Knott probably will finish up as well.
Keegan Knott, yeah, he hasn't had a lot of time in the league side. He's been a bit in and out. He's played a lot of reserves as well. Obviously, his desire is to get into the big leagues as well. He won a premiership in 2022, but they're just not showing as much desire. And a lot of these informed players have either been in the reserves for a prolonged amount of time or have left the club entirely.
Yeah, and I only say that about Noddy because I know he was weighing up, this year.
That's right.
50-50. So, at his age as well, who knows, he might play on, but probably wouldn't be surprised if he finishes up.
Yeah, absolutely. But a big result nonetheless for the West Coast Eagles. Winners by 8 points at Mineral Resources Park in Lathlane over the Falcons. Let's go to game number 2, Rothy. The grand final rematch. East Fremantle, the home team at Lane Group Stadium. It gets even weirder in 2024. East Fremantle being a home side at Lane Group Stadium, where Peel Thunder usually play their games. But home is where the Shark is on this occasion. 13-11-89, winners over Pure Thunder 10-6-66, 23 points. They're back on track, the Sharks, with 2 wins in a row, and they're back in the 5. It's a win that they certainly needed.
Yeah, 2 wins on the trot, and yeah, curveballs all around, as you said, with the home ground advantage. But yeah, sort of never know what you're going to get with these two sides when they come up against each other. You know, obviously that grand final. But yeah, I mean, East Fremantle, you know, stringing along after that. Yeah, Peel were a bit undermanned in their lineup, and that probably didn't help them.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, they lost Blair Bell with a hamstring injury. They also lost Patrick Voss, who was selected by the Dockers, and Liam Reedy, who was selected, but didn't play for the Dockers over in Launceston, and Will Brodie. They also lost Neil Erasmus in the opening minutes of the game with injury as well. We don't know how long he's going to be out for as of yet, but that is a massive blow for Peel Thunder. If he's out for, you know, a long amount of time, especially after the bye, that's really going to hurt, because he's a great asset to the midfield stock for Peel Thunder. Also, a big story coming out of that game, Rothy. Cameron Erdley was reported for a bump on Beau Allen. We can say that he was only reprimanded because Beau Allen was able to run off the ground on his own accord, did pass his concussion test, and was allowed back on. So Erdley, very, very relieved, it has to be said, because there was a lot of talk about whether he'd be suspended for 3 or even 5 weeks, as some reporters may have would have speculated after that incident. But it was a pretty heavy hit. But Erdley, nonetheless, he got a reprimand. But the way East Fremantle played, the way they took Peel Thunder's free-flowing attack right out of the game in favour of some more contested, stoppage-heavy football really was the difference, especially early on.
Yeah, it was. You know, we started talking about the start of the game, and really, I mean, there was no coming back for Peel Thunder right from the outset. You know, they sort of, every time, you know, the Thunder seemed to get close, Peel Thunder, the Sharks just fended them off, really, and kept that breathing room alive for them. So, yeah, a pretty confident win for them, and East Fremantle, you know, proving the critics wrong at this current stage and really making a surge towards the finals in their eyes.
Absolutely, especially against a Peel Thunder side who are often tough to beat at Lane Group Stadium. Their backline really was huge. I mean, when you look at Tassoni, Lennon Marlin and Max Murphy, okay, they didn't get a lot of the ball. They didn't get into double digits, with the exception of Lennon Marlin, who had 11. But just the way they were able to shut down Peel Thunder's forwards for at least the first 3.5 quarters really was critical into stamping their authority in this game. And you get the backup from the likes of Baskerville, who had 29, along with Milan Murdoch, and Lockie Blackerson, who continues to blossom in the ruck with another 25 hitouts. But also up forward, that's where the icing on the cake really was sealed. You know, you had 2 goals from Cody Leggett, 2 goals from Thomas Bennett. But then John O'Marsh, from 7 scoring shots, he kicked 4 goals, 3. He's coming into form at the right time. He's kicked 15 in the last 4 games. So he's had a great stretch, John O'Marsh.
Yeah, rich vein of form. Obviously well documented that he missed out on the premiership last year. So here we, above anyone else, I guess you'd say the most motivated to go again. And yeah, that nice left foot banana, he just doesn't stop surprising you, does he, as well? And the celebrations you know, doesn't back down there as well.
I mean, you said last week, you know, and I absolutely agree with you on this, you know, there's no one that plays with such passion, vigour and intensity in the WAFL quite like John O'Marsh.
Yeah, no, spot on. And yeah, week to week as well, really gets himself up for these games, no matter who he's versing, no matter the occasion, no matter what's on the line. And yeah, you mentioned Peel Thunder's forward line as well. I mean, outside of Tabner and Tregenza, they probably struggled to find, you know, another wave of players who really hit the scoreboard, you know, being restricted to just the 66 points.
No, you're absolutely right. You know, even though Tabner, you know, he's got some good experience, he regularly gets bags of goals. Corey Tregenza, he was held well by the Sharks' backline. They just couldn't find anybody else. I mean, they're just lacking those necessary avenues to goal. What I will say about Peel Thunder is another one of their young ruckmen, Max Noble, 50 hitouts and 16 disposals. I rate him pretty highly as well. He's a good ruckman that's got a good head on his shoulders. He's going to develop even further to a real handy follow-up ruckman.
Yeah, well, I mean, you'd probably hope he was going to get an opportunity at some stage. I mean, he's on an AFL list playing reserves footy. I mean, how long is he going to do that for? You know what I mean? So
well,
I think
hopefully it won't be too long before he gets a Dockers call-up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about a Dockers call-up specifically. I'm talking about a league game for Peel. I mean, I believe it's really hard to stay on an AFL list if you just play reserves footy. And that's no through fault of his own, because he's had, you know, Reedy there, you know, in his way. But that'll do wonders for his confidence. He's a massive boy. Like, he's huge.
Oh, he's a beast.
He's big. So with a bit more development, he'll only continue to get better.
Absolutely. Max Noble, a great game from him in a losing team. 50 hit-outs, 16 disposals, and even a goal to boot as well. He was able to go up forward and kick a vital goal. But East Fremantle got the points on this day. They keep their premiership defence intact. Winners by 23 points at Lane Group Stadium. And by jingos, what about this third game? We said last week, Rothy, that this one was going to be an absolute classic Game of the Year contender. It lived up to the billing at Steel Blue Oval, and it was Swan Districts that took the points by 7, and it was their 7th win in a row. 12-10-82 to 10-15-75. As we mentioned with Anthony Davis, he alluded to this so well. You know, it was a great game. You know, Claremont able to get the jump early. They couldn't sustain it. Swan Districts through not only great character, but also, you know, the 19th man over there at the can bar. That got them home once again. And just how good are these Swans? You know, 7 wins in a row. They're the story of the season, and it's great for the competition.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can hide the fact that they are a genuine contender at this current point in time. And, massive crowd there. All-time WAFL Classic, I think. Probably that alongside with the Derby, the Perth Derby earlier in the year, probably games of the year at this stage. And, yeah, interesting, Anthony Davis. Yeah, he did sort of admit that they got found out a little bit by the 19th man, the crowd, which is only normal, but I guess that's a challenge for teams to deal with. But yeah,
and they dealt with it well, I will say. You know, Claremont lost no admirers. I mean, they took it right to the Swans all throughout the afternoon. Okay, they were at the wrong end of the result. They had 9 more inside 50s, and they had their usual suspects, their senior players in particular, with Rogers, Bolton, Eastland, who had 49 hitouts, really stand up to the task, and also Alec Waterman, who kicked 3 vital goals in that game from 9 disposals. So even though they've dropped out of the 5, I think, you know, they'll still be confident that they can make the 5. They've got East Perth in 2 weeks, where they have beaten them a couple of times before. So Claremont, it was a real good performance by them. No admirers lost.
Yeah, and yeah, you're spot on as well. And Swans just strike me as a team who these special occasions, you know, obviously Tony Knott, Jesse Turner.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of occasions, obviously, you know, with Knott's 300 a few weeks ago as well. Obviously, beating Bill Walker's record this week just gone, but they strike me as a team who these big occasions they really thrive off and get up for, and it seems to make them better.
It certainly does. You know, these occasions build so much character in a footy club, and Swan Districts have had a lot of them this year, not just Noddy's 300th. Jesse Turner, of course, congratulations to him as well. Life membership at the club at 150 games. It really, you know, just gets them a little bit of that extra heart, you know, that extra heart and desire to perform well for their players, their club, and also in front of their loyal fans as well. Some of the players who really stood out again, Nick Rokar, 32 disposals. Jesse Turner was involved in every contest. In crunch time, he was magnificent, including 8 marks and a couple of goals. He was involved in a lot. Lee Coleman had 4 to continue his great run since returning from concussion. But also this story. This is an amazing story. Christian Capehorn, 86 games in reserves, finally gets the call up, and he gets to be a part of a winning side. That's amazing stuff.
Yeah, if that's not perseverance and resilience, I don't know what is. So credit to him for sticking it out and finally, you know, getting his reward. And who knows, if he can stay in the team, I might just have a premiership medal around his neck in a couple months' time.
I reckon they can do it. I reckon with this winning run, the rich vein of form that the Swans have been in, I reckon there's a genuine chance that they could win the whole thing. I mean, look at the side that they've got, and look at the way they've been playing. They just continue on their attack, their free-flowing game. They love playing at Steel Blue Oval. There is only one chink at the armour, is wins on the road. If they can string a couple of good wins on the road, coming out of their bye, heading into the game against South Fremantle at Fremantle Oval, that one is going to be so important. And then also you got East Fremantle, where it be at Sullivan Logistics or East Fremantle Oval, we don't know. So if they can get a couple of good wins on the road, that'll further solidify their chances as premiership contenders. But we can say they are with the winning run that they're on.
You just wonder if the bye comes a good time for them. I think some people might, you know, believe that continuity is key, but, you know, the question is how many wins can they keep? You know, how long is this streak going to continue for? You know, it's such a hard competition, and I'm not saying they'll, you know, want to lose any games by any means, but I guess losses before finals, if they are going to lose games, you know, you would want to become before finals, I should say, so that you're not just on this winning streak and then finals you suddenly lose.
Yeah,
you know?
That's right. That's a good point that you make. You know, you don't want to be complacent. You know, you still want to give it 100%. You want to still put in that 4-quarter effort, and I reckon they can do that, and they certainly have done in the last 7 games. On the Claremont side of things, Jai Bolton again was magnificent with 28, Bailey Rogers with 26, Callan England also prolific with 31, and Ollie Eastland, 49 hitouts, 19 disposals. Need I say more?
Yeah, the Ollie Easton's 49 hitouts was crucial. It feels like we're talking about that every week, you know, 40s and 50s. It's the consistency is just outstanding from him.
He's definitely the best ruckman in the competition. We've said it time and time again, and he continues to prove it out there.
Yeah, he's very, very hard to match up on. He can do his follow-up work. He can do his tap work. You know, he hits the scoreboard as well. more often than not.
I was more impressed as well with Munguru Frederick in the back line as well. He's had a bit of a lean run over the last 5 games, but he really picked up his game with 18 disposals in the back line. Very effective in his disposal when taking the Tigers out of their defensive 50. He's a good mover of the footy, and he's got good agility for a man of his build.
Yeah, plenty of flair, plenty of skill. That's why the Tigers brought him into their side, really.
And of course, the former South Australian taking his talents over to the WAFL, but it was Swan Districts that took victory in an absolute classic. Winners by 7 points over Claremont and getting them into 3rd place on the ladder. We'll show you that ladder in just a moment, but first, here's how you can win big at the WAFL.
Punt from 50, win. Little too into the game, win. Too cocky, almost a win. Risking it all for the glory, win. It's win-win at the WAFL. Great footy, food and entertainment. Find out more at waffle.com.au.
15 rounds done, Rothy. Let's take a look at the Premiership ladder after this past weekend of competition. Despite the loss, Peel Thunder still remain on top, on percentage ahead of East Perth, and then Swan Districts joining in the top 3. Great to see for the competition, and Swan Districts, they are rolling along. East Fremantle, with their win, they are back in the 5, percentage ahead of South Fremantle, who consider themselves very, very lucky, because if Claremont won, they would have been in the 5 themselves, but that is not the case. Claremont just outside the 5 on percentage. Then comes Subiaco, West Coast, West Perth, and Perth, rounding out the bottom half of the ladder. I will say this, who would have thought West Coast would be above West Perth on the ladder? By golly.
Yeah, not many people. And I think the positive is every single team is in double digits on the ladder now. So
That's right.
I think that's a real big positive for the competition as a whole.
It certainly is. Let's get to the votes for round 15. 1 vote, Milan Murdoch of East Fremantle. Just continues to get involved in the contest. He's a very gritty player. We saw it again on Saturday at Lane Group Stadium against Peel Thunder. And also just the way he's able to create those impacts at the contest as well. Whether it be out of a stoppage or whether the game is free-flowing, he's got that ability to keep his ground, take good possession, and then deliver for East Fremantle. He did a wonderful job. 2 votes, Lee Coleman of Swan Districts. Again, impressive form, 4 goals, and just continues to really be that continual threat inside that Swans forward 50. On the subject of forwards, 3 votes, John O'Marsh. What more can you say? 4 goals from 7 scoring shots, but the opportunities that he created as he was heading to goal was what impressed me the most. His first and also his 4th goal as well, with that left foot banana from the boundary, if you don't mind. 4 votes is Dom is good. Dom Sheed from the West Coast Eagles. 10 marks to go with his 31 disposals. He really was a big difference maker in that win over West Perth. But the Around the WAFL top gun of round 15, 5 votes goes to Swan District's Jesse Turner. Another great game he played, and I think his performance and his impact in the contest solidified why he is among the best in the WAFL at the moment. 26 disposals, 8 marks, 3 tackles, 5 inside 50s, and 2 goals. He was involved in everything on Saturday in that win over Claremont.
Yeah, probably some sound of a vote you could expect to come his way. And, 2 East Fremantle players, 2 Swan Districts players in the votes. Anytime that happens, you don't even have to look at the score to know that they've had a day out, those 2 teams.
No doubt about it. Let's go to the leaderboard. After round 15, Oliver Eastland still on top of the leaderboard with 14, but he's coming under threat from Jesse Turner and Mitch Crowden, who are on 12 votes each. Then comes Jonathan Marsh into the top 4 with 10. Lockie Blackiston, his East Fremantle teammate, on 9. Lee Coleman of Swan Districts has 8, along with Peel Thunder's Nathan Wilson and East Fremantle's Bryn Teakle. And then 7 votes is Isaiah Winder of South Fremantle. And rounding out the top 10 is Callan England of Claremont. At this time, Rothy, 55 players have polled, but dare I say it, it could be a race between those 9 players in the top 10, with the exception of Bryn Teakle, of course, who is at North Melbourne. But that 9 out of the 10 that are in that leaderboard, they could still have a chance.
Yeah, it's set to be a nail-biter, isn't it? There's
no
some
doubt.
good players in there.
No doubt about it. We shall wait and see in the final few rounds of the WAFL. That does it for today's edition of Around the WAFL. A huge thanks to Anthony Davis for his time on the show. Great to chat with him as well. And great to have you along as always, Rothy. Great job from you as always, and we look forward to a big round 16.
Thanks, Paul. See you Thursday.
We look forward to your company, listeners and viewers as well, on where you get your podcasts and, of course, on YouTube. On Thursday's edition, West Perth's Shane Nelson is going to be joining us to talk about the side's big game against East Fremantle on the weekend, as well as all the big action from round 16. We look forward to your company then.